Hello, welcome to the 15th annual LD Micro main event. I'm Jonathan Miller, and I'm here with Gayn Erickson, CEO of Aehr Systems, ticker symbol AEHR on the NASDAQ Stock Exchange. Gayn, will you tell us a little bit more about the company and what exactly the focus is?
Okay, so Aehr Test is a semiconductor test capital equipment company. We build test systems that are beyond the normal good from bad. Semiconductors are typically all tested for goodness, whether good or bad or how good they are. But then beyond that, certain semiconductors in their applications need to be tested beyond that to hit certain reliability rates. So and performance capability. So for an automotive device, in a critical application, the typical failure rate of a processor or other sensors, et cetera, that would be normally tested to good is not good enough. So they'll go through extended test and reliability testing for an extended period of time to weed out devices that would otherwise fail. So that's been our specialization. And we've been doing that for a very long time. We're one of the market leaders, or particularly in the wafer level, the market leader in that. Some of the big changes that are going on in our company right now is that some of these devices are actually going into what we call modules, or where they have multiple devices in a single package.
All right.
And doing the burn-in testing, as it's called, in the module level is extremely expensive because there might be 8 devices in the module. And when one fails, you throw away all the rest of them. So Aehr Test got out kind of ahead of the curve and built a product that we call the Fox full wafer burn-in system that actually is cost effective enough to test multiple wafers of the entire wafer of devices as semiconductors at a time, such that you can burn in and weed out the bad devices before they go into these applications. And one of the things that's really driving our business right now is the shift to electric vehicles. The power semiconductor conversions in the electric vehicles are actually come out at a failure rate that's too high. So they do this burn-in, and everybody burns in these devices before they go. But there's a transition from discrete devices to modules, where the device itself, there's a huge cost advantage to go to wafer level. And Aehr Test had invested in and developed this family of products that is very effective at doing that, and quite frankly, got to the intersection before the electric vehicle, the silicon carbide power transfer, and the reliability and module needs drove the need for it. And we've got caught up in that and are effectively in a great position to basically have a significant, if not dominant, market share in that space.
And what's your background? How did you get involved with this market opportunity?
So my background, I've been in semiconductor test really my whole life. I came out of engineering school and came up through Hewlett-Packard. HP had a semiconductor test business that ultimately got spun out, and we were a publicly traded company called Verigy. And I actually knew about Aehr Test through a potential acquisition. I was sneaking around trying to buy them because they had this technology that I thought would be advantageous to us at the time. And then we actually got acquired by a Japanese company called Advantest back in 2011 for a little over $1 billion, and that put an end to that. So I had some choices. I think I had a great relationship with Advantest, but left the company to go run Aehr Test about 10 years ago. And with the same vision of being able to build these products to take advantage of this market that we just thought was, quite frankly, going to come. So I've been the CEO since that time. I'm a big product advocate, have a big say in how we have been designing and developing these things, but have a great team that had developed this tool set that now in hindsight looks like we had a brilliant move and is really capturing this great market right now.
So it sounds like your passion for this kind of originates prior to you meeting with the business. So it just kind of aligned that way?
I think so. I think there was, a lot of the trends, if you listen to us and watch what we were saying over the last 10 years, we were passionately clear that, automotive, and we saw things like, semiconductors in automotive in a stereo, I mean, if it broke, who cares, sort of thing, right? And in fact, there were standards around the semiconductor content in the car, which semiconductors had such certain reliability. And there were some that were deemed, don't worry about it, it's kind of interesting. But then there were other categories that were mission critical, like the car wouldn't run. Then they had to come up with new categories when all of a sudden they were in adaptive automatic cruise control. Like if it didn't work, you would crash the car, or now autonomous vehicles. And you start looking, you're like, I don't think the world's ready for this yet. So we were talking about that long before people were even talking about electric vehicles.
Wow.
And saying for that and several other reasons, we should go build this. And we believe that this is going to end up being a great product. So there was a little bit of getting ahead of the curve on this. And then now it looks like we really just made the right moves. But we think we were intelligent about making those bets and believe that these markets were coming. And there's several of them that are actually taking advantage of this. And again, today, a lot of the discussion is around the silicon carbide, which again is the power conversion in the electric vehicles. And that device allowed, Tesla was the first one to do it, but people say, well, what's the big deal about silicon carbide? And I kind of joke, because I can talk about it technically in the physics of why it's a better thing, but I always simplify it and say, well, it just allows your car, your electric vehicle to go maybe 15% longer battery range and charge faster, that's all. They're like, well, what else matters? I'm like, exactly. And so that's why everybody is adopting that. And it turns out that our system is particularly well suited. It's exceptionally suited to be able to test this for that application. And so as the electric vehicle business is rising, so are we.
That's great. And obviously over the last 2.5 years, especially in the last 6 months, there's been a lot of obstacles facing public companies and the capital markets. What's kind of been the strategy to overcome, supply chain issues, COVID, the market?
Right. Well, we certainly were affected by COVID. Aehr Test had a couple of really tough years because these new products had just been started to be adopted, and a lot of those customers put things on hold. And so we're happy to have gotten through it because we were actually seeing all those companies that chose us before COVID, who multiple didn't buy a thing. That's awful. Come back right now. And so we're kind of seeing all of our business segments coming back for similar reasons. We've been traveling freely, obviously, throughout the U.S. and through Europe, but now also in Asia, and we see China even coming on. But we're not very exposed to China. We currently don't have, any current plans to be putting systems into China. But we are selling lots of systems to customers that are building parts that are going into the China cars. And a lot of people have asked us about that. But from a COVID perspective, I think we've been able to kind of work through that, and we're glad it's behind us.
So it sounds like some of your better strengths are your technology, your human capital. Anything else you'd like to highlight?
Well, the way we built this tool, and again, this is more interesting for the technical folks, is very unique in that it adapts technologies and a infrastructure that is candidly not like other things. So normally there's infrastructure handling tools that are always used for handling wafers. We don't do that at all. We don't use standard probe cards, which is a term in our industry. So we're doing things differently, but when people start to understand it, they realize that our system, for example, in the footprint of like what you and I are here in this booth, right? Normally, test systems can test one wafer at a time, okay? Or even a fraction of that wafer. So they might have to go 4 different times around to test the wafer. Our system can test every device on the wafer, and we can test 18 wafers in the same footprint.
Wow.
So in a market where the world's going to need thousands of wafers of test capacity put in place for the electric vehicle, if you happen to be an EV, if you're intending to be a major supplier of silicon carbide, you might need 1,000 or 2,000 wafers of capacity. But it would mean 2,000 booths like this, or from us, you would only need 1/20th as many because we have 18 wafers in the same footprint. So we have technological differentiation that is key, and we have a ton of patents related to the whole technology related to what we're doing. And, at this point, it looks like people really understand it, and it's being widely adopted.
It sounds like a great story. How would you summarize the company's bottom line?
Well, I think we're in a very good position. We made the investments over the last handful of years and have now captured some of the key market leaders in the spaces and segments that we've had. That news has gotten out and it's affected the other companies in the space, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of widespread adoption of this product in multiple market segments. silicon carbide for electric vehicles being one of the really big ones. And it is really allowing us to propel and grow both our top and bottom line up into the foreseeable future. So we're really excited right now.
That's amazing. And is there anything else you'd like to highlight for investors? Any new product releases? Anything to keep an eye out for?
Well, I think most people have been watching appropriately. We've made some forecasts for incremental customers and customer wins that we're expecting to ramp into production through the end of our fiscal year, which is through May. So there's a lot of folks watching closely to wait for announcements that are coming up. And so we're sticking to our guns about our expectation for adding several new customers to be buying into production by the end of our fiscal year. And so there's a lot of good news for us. It's all looking great. And I know there's a lot of other things going on in the industry, but at least within our market segments, they're all going really well. So we're very excited.
Sounds like a lot of good news. Gayn, we thank you so much for stopping by here, as always, to the LD Micro event, being a supporter of everything that we're doing here. And for investors at home, please keep an eye out. CEO Gayn Erickson, Aehr Systems, ticker symbol AEHR. Thank you so much, Gayn.
Thank you.